like rolled in here, fixed some things in it was fixing. I wanted to set a reminder in Slack and have the agent do it, and went through a little learning there about how like reminders work. And I'm gonna create a personal assistant that will actually interact with my, you know, and set reminders for me and things. You could definitely do that in Slack. But I was like, wait, I don't really want Tim to do that. I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be called Susie Bot. And once I add her, I'll enable that. It's pretty straightforward. I actually like had it all ready to go, and I was like, nah, I don't want Tim to do that. He's just gonna send me a message for reminders, and then I'll have Susie Bot be like more, and that's important. Like defining like what your like the capabilities and what you let each agent like what their domain is actually one of the most important things in creating an effective agent. And so I'm just going to show you like just this really cool experience I had with Tim setting up the scheduled message, and it's a mind blowing experience. Honestly, just the dialogue, the conversation. It's Claude talking to Tim, Claude Code talking. When I say talking right now, I don't have them. I just pass messages, right? Because you're like, wait a second, there's some nuance in this. But when you see it, you'll be like, yes, this is insane. But first, let's just jump into my intro, and then I'll go right to the screen share.
Morning Scrum with Govind Davis.
So yeah, I'm bumping this up. I'm trying to find right now, just going back into the Slack thread, and this is crazy because now you can find it's so. I mean, jumping into Slack just gave me this insane set of additional tools that are like totally like already in place. And as I like bond with, I could call it bond, as I get connected to like what are all the different capabilities, and knowing that like Claude Code is going to do it all for me. Whatever is possible in Slack, I can get it done in an hour or two at most. And the faster, as my CI/CD for this, I fix some issues there, and it's fast. It's like, bam, make this change. Sometimes I have to adjust the auth permissions manually, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to control what my agent can do at a sort of fundamental level. That's important. So yeah, I'm gonna just bump over right now and screen share, and this is just it's actually just completely blows my mind somehow. Sometimes, not even sometimes, every time when I'm just seeing, okay, here's how these like agentic intelligences like collaborate. Again, right now they're not automatically. There's like this next level of like, hey, just let it run amok and everything talks to itself and it's going. I'm building into that right now. I'm very much in the middle of things because I want to know what's going on, but I see that like it's not that far away that I'm going to have like Tim and Scout just going, right? It's just as you're ramping this up, I just say, be careful, right? Watch what everything's doing, test, and only let things just run themselves when they're ready, like when you're really ready. Because I just read every day, every day I'm reading about disasters in autonomous intelligence, and like, yeah, you're probably like hype a lot, but they're actually not completely hype. I know this is dangerous if you don't do it in a controlled way. And to me, it's like start human in the middle and then advance, right? So, and I'll show you it's so easy to do this, right? So I'm like, hey, and it's you got to zoom in. I'm just going to read it, but you can see it here. It's like set a reminder for me at 10 a.m. And Tim comes back and says, hey, I can't do that. I don't have a way to do that, right? And at first I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then I'm like, I modified your tools, and and I'm like, wait, this is where I went through like, okay, the bunch of like CI/CD stuff wasn't quite right, and all these different things, right? Usually like once you kind of get these connections and everything, you can do it really fast. But this is one that was kind of broken. I made a mistake. I went into, I had the wrong folder that I was working in when I created a little piece of this. And, what sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I start working on something. You do have to be careful in Claude Code that you're working in the right place. And, but it's fine. Like, you start the morning and then the day starts rolling and you're just like cooked into it. And, I had to reset like my SSH key. Right. So anyway, so there's some stuff here. It's like, hey, I can't read that. I can't do that. So, I'm going along and finally I'm like, I'm getting tired of like command. I'm just going to like literally like copy paste the like messages from Claude Code. Right. And then Tim's just like, hey, like, and then what I'm doing is this, and I was doing already before I was doing this before, was like, I would copy the message from Tim into Claude Code. So this is kind of like a fast way to debug or test your things, right? You're like, hey, Tim couldn't do it. Tim couldn't do it. And, this is going to take maybe 5, 6, 10 tests, right? And then you're going to get it to work. And it's like, cool, like it worked, right? And there's different, there's these edge cases where we're getting into like, scheduling the message, but then it's like, okay, he wants to check and see like, hey, there was a timing issue, right? There was like 8 issues that have to be fixed, right? So I'm over here in Claude Code and I'm literally just pasting in, here's what Tim says, right? Like, Tim said blah, 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 right? Like, I don't really want to decipher that and even have to give any kind of command to Claude Code. I'm just literally like, again, people who are like super smart, they're like, oh, hey, let's wire this up, and they'll talk to each other and they'll just continuously fix each other. And I'm sure, like, look, I'm not that bright, or I don't have the time and energy in that world, but I'm sure there's people that are just like, hey, and this is like this next level, right? You're like, hey, I will do this. I'm just going to be like Claude Code, deploy a little robot that's just literally going to like create a spec for Tim so he can do every single like Slack command or interface with my database, like completely have this intimate knowledge of my database. And as I do more of that, again, I see there's these use cases for like next, recursive next levels of automation. But if you could just even get this basic pattern down, like, of like, hey, the agent is an intelligence, let it tell you what's happening. And then you go to your coder, whatever tool you're using to control the agent, you just let it know. You just kind of pass the messages back and forth. That's a great human in the middle approach for me. It works really, really well. I'm just like, wait a second, this is way faster. And, I think the whole idea today was just why Slack is so cool, actually. Oh, and then I'm like, wait, I can just add Claude in here. Now, this isn't Claude Code. I'm sure there's maybe ways. I mean, I have to think about like, hey, can I control Claude Code on my desktop? Because there's a lot of approvals and things. I just don't know if I'm going to go there. But having Claude right here is great, because what I'm going to do right now after this show is done, that's exactly why I kind of jumped into this, is I'm just going to use Claude Code in Slack, create my content for Ghost. I at some point when I have time, I'll just add like a Ghost publisher bot, so it can just take that, pop it into Ghost, and then what I have is, I have a prompt where Claude Code creates the spec for the post. Like, it creates all the content and some instructions, and like it creates a package of things, but I still assemble it. It's really hard to get things like perfectly like assembled, and like, I want to see the images like as I produce them. So I still do some work, but I'm like, let's take all the junk out of it. So that's what I'm going to try as soon as we bump off here. And I'm excited to share this today. And this is me. I'm still trying to figure out what I am. After I'm done with all this, my next thing is just, that's why I got confused with the project, because last night I'm working on my branding on my site. I'm using Claude Code to just pull, I set up a local configuration of, I set up Docker, and I pulled down my Ghost site, and I'm going to, work on the Ghost template. And that's what I think messed up. Like, that's why I had to reset my SSH and some of those other things. So anyway, I'm definitely going to market right now. So if anybody, if you want stuff built, like, to me, I feel like, oh, wow, everybody can do this. But the truth is probably not. Like, I could produce insanely amazing things with AI. like super fast. And they're also informed by my own experience, right? My knowledge, my expertise in, building hundreds and hundreds of low code now, well over 300 low code applications for, major companies, and, spending 10 years trying to figure out how to like scale up, outbound. And so, I'm open for work and excited if anybody wants to get something just absolutely insane built for them.